What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. Brand new experimental card just went live. Let's take a look at the changes. Genji's Firerate has nearly been put back to its glory buff. The lowest we've seen this recovery time go down to was 0.65 with that insane Genji buff. I mean, this is barely higher than that at 0.68. Might as well be the same thing, but this time around, instead of buffing the damage of the shurikens alongside it, they've actually nerfed the Dragon Blade charge rate to try to keep Genji at a similar power level. But I would say this probably would be a net buff, because when you get to use Dragon Blade, it's going to be fixed on whether you have nano up and ready or if the enemy's cooldowns are down. You don't really want to do it into the full team of cooldowns, otherwise the blade is useless a lot of the time. So because of that, I think if you were to choose where to put the power, putting it more into the mid fight is a better thing for Genji. Because with this fire rate, I think he's more dangerous in the mid fight, where he was more or less struggling to mark anything meaningfully. The lower recovery time means that he can aggressively take some duels that he previously was more or less afraid of. And although it's not the glory buffs from last year, still a significant increase in his burst potential, which I think is the most important thing, but also is going to see gains with just his pressure damage overall. He's going to be putting out more shurikens over the course of a team fight, more quickly than before. Mei's Chryofreeze is getting a buff. The self-healing she gets while going into her ice cube is going up from 37.5 to 50. Now, the way this heal works is that while you remain in the untargetable Chryofreeze form, you're regaining health each second, and the ability lasts 4.25 seconds max. So that means the old version could heal about 160 health, and this new value will bring you to 212 life over the course of the entire duration. But also keep in mind that you don't have to use the whole duration. You can cancel out of it, of course, which means you'll be at a higher threshold of health faster than before, so you may be more comfortable coming out of it earlier. Say if you feel you only need 100 extra life in order to finish the target that you're fighting. So this will be a helpful buff for Mei in more ways than one, and the devs explained that because in a previous patch they had made her untargetable by allies, so she couldn't get healed while in Chryofreeze, this buff is intending to add to her ability to sustain since she can't be healed by an ally. Next up, Pharah's hover jet regeneration rate has been increased from 35 to 43. This is a value that has been toyed around with a lot, and the devs go to explain here that they're aiming to allow her to remain altitude reasonably well with careful fuel and cooldown management, but not so easily climb to the extreme heights of some of the map ceilings, which they say leads to less interactive gameplay. The balance of this has gone up and down throughout the years. If you know how to rocket jump and maintain your fuel appropriately, if this is too strong, it can become quite easy to never have to touch the ground. Whereas, as they've nerfed this, you have to be much more thoughtful of when you go into the air. Now, with this new value of 43, it feels to me that you can remain airborne longer, but not necessarily get to those extreme heights that they're afraid of getting to. The issue for me is that it's precisely those medium range heights that Pharah basically has to avoid entirely. Because if you're hanging there, then you're just gonna die to the millions of things that easily shoot you. So it's really the burst of momentum, getting to that spot, firing some rockets, then falling away, that matters to me. And while you will find that your fuel will come back faster than before, especially while you're using the jump jet boost to maintain and gain altitude, it's only a slight increase. Meanwhile, Echo kind of like free flies everywhere. And in my opinion anyway, instead of trying to get them both allowed to fly wherever they want, I would prefer it was balanced closer to what the previous values of Pharah was. I'd like it toned down to that. But that's just one man's opinion. One that I will more or less maintain onto this Reaper buff when I was so happy that they didn't launch at this value. With the community putting in playtime on the new Reaper, he is underperforming, so they're bumping the stats up to 6 damage per pellet. We've ran through this rework before. Tighter spread, better range, 20 pellets per shot in a very fixed pattern. At the old value, maxed out at 110. The new one goes up to 120. The main thing that changes here is how many headshots you need to get. I really liked the old version where you actually had to aim. Now I think it's a little less punishing on going for body shots. Either way, the new Reaper rework is much weaker against tanks than before, specifically up against armor. And not to get into a big rant, because you guys know how I like to do that, I haven't seen anybody play the new Reaper correctly yet. I still see Reaper players who are targeting the tanks into the armor rather than the playstyle that he's good at now, which is like a alternate version of Tracer targeting squishies. So I think they're a bit premature trying to draw stats from a community that I'm almost fully confident doesn't know how to play the new Reaper yet. And this is one of those buffs that we may fairly quickly wish they didn't institute when you have a very easy character that gets a lot of free kills. But again, just one man's opinion. I think very easy kills shouldn't be a thing that we aim for with the balance, but maybe I'm wrong. What do I know? And continuing down on this theme, Sigma, who had previously got that massive nerf to experimental barrier. Remember, it was originally 1 second of cooldown, which was insane. You could flicker it on and off very quickly, interrupting a lot of value and catching a lot of cooldowns. They had put it to 2.5, which is an eternity. Now it's at 2 seconds, which you might say, well, that's not that big of a deal. But realistically speaking, with the way the meta plays out and how weak I think tanks are, Sigma's damage potential carries his kit majorly. So giving him just a little bit more flexibility extends the positions he can play to press that Roadhog-esque pick-off potential from the tank slot further out than it was before. On the live version of the game, I think Sigma's fairly restrained, but has insane potential. If this buff goes through, the maps he'll be good on widen out a little bit more. And last change for the experimental card, Zarya's energy drain has been increased from 1.6 to 1.8 per second. So you nearly lose 2 energy per second. This value is incredibly important to Zarya because, very similar to Sigma, keeping your charge changes how confident you are to play different positions. So as an example, if you get 100 charge and you use both cooldowns to help the team, you can just straight up flank, knowing that most duels you'll find you can win, especially as you're getting into those mid-fight exchanges where it's like a 3-on-3 and you need to go get some positioning from the enemy to deny it value or just straight up win a duel. There's certain breakpoints where Zarya goes from instantly winning those duels to having a rough time to making it be quite a risk to do so. So if Sigma's buff has the potential to extend his positioning, this kind of nerf pulls her closer to the team and limits her flexibility. And just beyond the positioning, of course, this is straight up a damage nerf. Every point of charge she has increases her damage by 1%. That can equate to less pressure damage on the enemy, lower grav charge rate. It's a very challenging number to tune down, and frankly, Zarya was like the only effective tank in the whole category, in my opinion, so I'm not looking forward to this being nerfed. In fact, I think tanks are woefully underpowered. Once Blizzard had tuned down the fragging ones and never really addressed to the damage power creep they left in the game for years, so that may be something we address in an upcoming video, but we'll talk about that more in future videos. If you found this one useful, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to hit subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.